Your tortoise just looked at you, not a random scan. A direct, sustained look, head slightly elevated, eyes tracking you specifically. Most owners assume nothing much is happening behind those eyes. That the cognitive life of a tortoise is slow, simple, and mostly about food and warmth. The research says something completely different. Subscribe right now, because what you are about to learn will change what you see when your tortoise looks your way. 5 surprising truths about what your tortoise actually thinks about you. Stay until number 4, because number 4 changes the entire meaning of what it means when a tortoise chooses to approach you. 1. Your tortoise recognizes you as an individual and has for longer than you knew. Tortoises have been on this planet for 200 million years. They have outlasted dinosaurs, ice ages, and the full arc of vertebrate evolution. The nervous system that got them here is not simple, and the cognitive architecture behind those eyes is not what most owners have been told to expect. The assumption most tortoise owners carry is that their tortoise recognizes them the way a very simple animal might, vaguely, inconsistently, mostly in connection with food. The research is significantly more specific than that. Studies on individual recognition in chelonian species, the family that includes tortoises and turtles, confirmed that tortoises distinguish between familiar and unfamiliar humans through a combination of visual recognition, olfactory profiling, and movement pattern familiarity. The recognition is not general, it is individual specific. A tortoise that has been with a consistent keeper for several months responds measurably differently to that specific person than to strangers of equivalent size and behavior. Research published in the journal Animal Cognition documented that red-footed tortoises, one of the most studied tortoise species in cognitive research, can learn to associate specific human individuals with specific outcomes and maintain that association across extended time periods. The learning is not just Pavlovian food association, it is individual recognition, the tortoise building a specific profile of a specific person that persists and informs future interactions. Your tortoise knows what you look like. It knows how you move. It knows your approach pattern and the particular way you smell compared to everyone else who has ever entered its space. That recognition started earlier than you think and has been updating every day since. But number 2 reveals something about what your tortoise does with that recognition that most owners would not expect. 2. Your tortoise has been tracking your patterns and anticipating what comes next. 200 million years of survival required something that most people do not associate with tortoises, the ability to predict what is going to happen next. Tortoises in the wild navigate seasonal food availability, water source locations, temperature gradients, and territorial dynamics across landscapes that change continuously. The nervous system that evolved to manage all of that is a pattern recognition and prediction machine, calibrated over geological time to be extraordinarily good at learning what follows what. Research on anticipatory behavior in captive tortoises found that animals with consistent keepers develop measurable pre-feeding behavioral sequences, increased activity, movement towards the enclosure wall facing the area from which food typically arrives, head elevation, and environmental scanning that begin before any visible or audible signal from the keeper has occurred. The tortoise is not responding to a cue. It is predicting the cue from upstream pattern information. Your tortoise has mapped your routine, the time of day you typically approach, the sounds that precede your arrival, the sequence of events that leads to feeding or handling. Every day you follow that routine, the prediction gets more precise. Every day you deviate from it, the tortoise notices, and its behavior reflects the deviation. What looks like a slow, passive animal waiting for things to happen is actually an animal running a continuous predictive model of your behavior. It knows what usually comes next, and it is already preparing for it. Number 3 is the finding that surprises most people because it challenges one of the most common assumptions about tortoise cognition. 3. Your tortoise can solve problems and remembers the solutions. The cognitive research on tortoises has produced findings that routinely catch scientists off guard. Not because tortoises are secretly as intelligent as mammals, they are not, but because the specific domains in which tortoise cognition excels are ones that researchers did not expect to find there. A landmark study at the University of Vienna tested tortoises on spatial problem-solving tasks, navigating a maze to reach a food reward, then being retested on the same maze after extended intervals. Tortoises not only solved the maze but retained the solution across intervals of up to 9 years without any intervening practice. 9 years of reliable memory for a specific spatial solution in a reptile most people assume barely remembers yesterday. Additional research on object permanence, the understanding that an object continues to exist when it is no longer visible, found that tortoises demonstrate this capacity at a level comparable to animals with significantly larger brain-to-body ratios. When food is hidden under an object in the tortoise's visual field, the tortoise moves the object to retrieve the food. It did not forget the food existed. It understood the food was there and acted on that understanding. What this means for your relationship with your tortoise is specific. Every positive interaction you have had, every feeding, every gentle handling session, every moment of calm proximity has been encoded and retained in a memory system that is far more durable than most owners assume. Your tortoise does not have a relationship with you that resets. It has a relationship with you that accumulates. Number 4 is the one that changes the meaning of a behavior most owners barely notice. 4. When your tortoise approaches you, it is a decision. This is the finding that lands differently once you understand it. Tortoises do not approach things reflexively. They are not designed for rapid, impulsive movement towards stimuli. Every approach a tortoise makes is the result of a deliberate behavioral decision following an assessment. The animal considered the situation, evaluated the stimulus, compared it against its existing behavioral model of the world, and chose to move toward it. Research on approach avoidance behavior in chelonians found that tortoises show significantly higher approach rates toward familiar individuals than toward unfamiliar ones in controlled conditions, and that this difference persists even when the familiar individual is not carrying food and the unfamiliar individual is. The tortoise is not approaching you because you represent food. It is approaching you because you specifically have been assessed and found to be something worth moving toward. For an animal whose primary survival strategy across 200 million years has been caution, retraction, concealment, withdrawal from uncertainty, voluntary approach toward a large mammal represents something behaviorally significant. The default is not to approach. The default is to stay still and assess. The approach is the departure from the default. When your tortoise moves toward you, when it crosses the enclosure to be near you, when it stretches toward your hand, when it follows you along the enclosure wall, it is doing something that cost its ancestors everything when they got it wrong. It has decided, based on everything it has observed and remembered about you, that you are worth the movement. That decision did not come for free, and it means more than most owners have been told. Number 5 is the last one, and it is the one that reframes everything about what it means to keep a tortoise at all. 5. Your tortoise is not indifferent to you. It experiences your absence. This is the finding most people do not expect. Research on behavioral and physiological responses to keeper absence in long-term captive tortoises found measurable differences in activity levels, feeding behavior, and environmental scanning frequency between periods when the primary keeper was present in the home versus extended periods of keeper absence. The tortoises were not in the same space as the keeper during these periods. The keeper's presence in the building, registered through sound, vibration, and olfactory cues, was sufficient to produce behavioral differences. When the keeper was away for extended periods, activity levels decreased, environmental scanning frequency increased, feeding consistency became less reliable. These are not dramatic behavioral collapses. They are subtle shifts in the behavioral baseline that are only visible when you have enough data points to compare against. The tortoise, that seems entirely indifferent to whether you are home or not, is running a continuous background process that includes you as a significant variable. Your presence is registered. Your absence is registered. The familiar sensory signature of you in its environment is part of the baseline it has built its behavioral model around. You matter to your tortoise in a way that is quiet, specific, and built over time. Not in the dramatic, expressive way a dog matters to its owner. In the way that 200 million years of patient, careful, deliberate cognition matters, slowly, durably, and with a precision that has outlasted every other terrestrial vertebrate lineage on the planet. Go back through all five. The individual recognition that started earlier than you knew and has been updating every day since. The predictive model of your routine that your tortoise has been running continuously since it arrived. The 9-year memory for spatial solutions in a brain you assumed barely held yesterday. The deliberate decision to approach you, a departure from 200 million years of default caution, and the behavioral baseline that includes you as a significant variable, registered even through walls, processed even in your absence. The animal that looks like it is thinking nothing is thinking something. It has been thinking about you for longer than you knew.